Hi everyone, welcome back to Live Darts. We are here and we're catching up with the asset. Paul, it's been a while since we spoke about all darting matters.
It has been. There's been a lot of water under the bridge, that's for sure.
Only one place to start. We'll go back to Blackpool. It's just happened. Rob Cross joins a very exclusive club of winning the Worlds and the match play. Deserved winner in the end?
Yes, I believe so. I think he rode his luck at times. Obviously, a few missed darts had doubled through the course of the tournament. Allowed him to get into the position to win the tournament. But he didn't allow Daryl Gurney a match dart, which is how you beat people, isn't it? So you've got to congratulate him on that. But what an amazing game that was with Gurney. I felt for Gurney because he really did put in the performance of the tournament for me against Peter Wright. But after that, Rob Cross, there was something about him that week. He looked the perfect mix of rested and practiced. And when he gets that little bit right and that little bit of aggression as well, he's a pretty tough customer.
He's also got that monkey off his back where everyone said he wouldn't win another major. The world was a fluke. Obviously not.
Well, he does things in a very short space of time, doesn't he, Mr. Cross? And for me, I think it's quite remarkable what he's done in a short space of time. The people who came out and said that he was a bit of a fluke, I mean, I'd love to have a conversation with those people. But they always say that the second tournament is the harder one to win because you have to carry a reputation around with you. He's done that brilliantly for the last 18 months. And he's already spoken about his struggles with, being world champion and being so highly ranked last year in his first Premier League and things like that. But he's handled things so much better this year. His stats at the beginning of the year were phenomenal. And now he's got that monkey off his back. Who's to say he's not going to go overseas and win some more?
I think most of the darting world as well felt, not sorry, it's not the wrong word, but we all want to see Michael Smith win one because his talent is unquestionable. And I think he just needs that first one to get him off and running.
Yeah, I think another tournament win, not so much a major or a World Series, I think just another tournament win will help Michael get back on that horse and give him that 100% belief that it's going to happen. For me, it is going to happen with Michael. I think he's got way too much talent for him not to win something. I mean, we don't forget the win in Shanghai. He can win on stage. He's won Euro Tours. He's won in Gibraltar. He's won in East Germany. So we know it's there. We know he can beat anybody. He's not afraid of MVG or Cross or anybody like that. But what is it about Rob Cross denying Michael Smith things? When Rob won his world title, it was Michael who lost out again. But I'm a big believer in things happening in circles. You get these things that happen, but then it comes all the way around. And Michael Smith, as long as he stays in that belief mode and has the right support, which I know he has with Dagmara and the kids, let's just hope that he keeps his chin up enough, gets back on the board and does his thing because he is just immense to watch.
It's all changing the rankings now as well. Obviously, Michael top, we know. Rob's closed the gap. But 3 and 4 has a whole new feel to it with Daryl Gurney now the world number 3, Michael Smith the world number 4, Gary Anderson and Peter Wright not in the top 4 for the first time in what seems forever.
I like it because the average age has gone down. If you think about Smith, Cross, who's deceptively young. We talked about that earlier in the match play being younger than Chris Dobey, which was kind of ridiculous. MVG, of course, and Gurney. That's a young top 4. I like the look of that. And it's a very strong one at that as well. And if they're going to be the top 4 after the Worlds, it makes for interesting picks, doesn't it, for the Premier League, which is something we'll probably talk about in the next 3 or 4 months. But I like the change. I think Peter Wright, the way he's playing, he's probably going to struggle to go a little bit higher. He's going to have to win a major, I think. He may have to win in Dublin or possibly win the Worlds, to get a bit higher because he's got a lot to defend. But you can see this happening 2 years out. Cross coming into the game, Gurney getting better, Michael Smith getting better. The average age was always going to go down, and this is a look at what the top 4 will probably look like for the next few seasons.
Also as well, going into the match play, we had lots of questions. We were looking for answers, but did we leave the match play with even more questions than what we started in relation to, one, Gary Anderson's fitness is the wrong word, but his form lacking match practice. Michael van Gerwen, how long before we really consider this a crisis of confidence?
I'd give it 6 weeks. I think if Michael van Gerwen, that is, doesn't get a win in the next 6 weeks, then we'll start to ask even more questions. I don't think we should call it a crisis. Not yet anyway. But everybody goes through dry spells. I mean, Taylor went through dry spells. where other people were winning majors when people thought he was going to win them. You know, Lloydie winning a couple of majors, and you know there were times in the 90s when Taylor didn't win the match play. 2 years, in fact. So we shouldn't, you know, poster child this for MVG as a huge thing just yet. But maybe just a little bit of work abroad in August and maybe in Europe in September is just what he needs to get himself back on the horse and try and defend that World Grand Prix. It's not going to be easy for him because everybody around him's getting better. As far as Gary's concerned, I think we all know that he hasn't had enough time on the board, even though he won the World Cup. And he played the Pro Tours before the World Matchplay, which I think was quite smart to get himself in the sort of practice mode that he needed to be in. But there's more work that needs to be done, and the World Series is probably going to provide a little bit of that, but a bit more of ranked tour action is what he needs before defending his Champions League.
In relation to Michael, he came out yesterday and said he very much doubts he's going to play another Players Championship event this year. Now, we know there's a fine balance between rest, work. In the past, he's got it right. Is the balance maybe a little bit out now and he's a little bit under match prepared from where he usually is?
Well, he's talked in the past about how he prefers to play Euro Tour as opposed to Pro Tour. Well, Players Championships. I still call them Pro Tours. But I really do feel that MVG needs to play a good amount of these Players Championship events, because the amount that you play in those days, potentially if you go really deep as well, and specifically if you win one, that stands you in such good stead. Look at the guys who went deep early in the season. Durrant, Smith, Wade. Pretty good seasons, right? And you want to keep having those days where you put in 8-9 hours of really good, solid work. I remember back in the day, Kim Hybrex used to say to me, he loved Championship League darts because you were getting paid to practice against the best players in the world. Thing is, you can practice all you want, but you can't replicate a Players Championship day. They are the best days to play to get you ready for the likes of Euro Tours and majors and get real reps in your shoulder and your arm. And maybe that's what MVG's lacking. I don't know specifically what is going on with Michael. There may be some other stuff, but it seems to me like there's not as much confidence as there was potentially earlier in the season. But I think maybe taking some Players Championships off, I'm not so sure it's the right thing to do.
Also, as well, across the course of the match play, there was other darting news broke from the BDO. So many questions within this one topic. Have you ever seen a whole officiating party resign at once? And two, was Des Jacquelin's statement more of a hindrance than a help?
Well, I knew about Richard Ashdown leaving a little while ago, and I was told to keep stum about that one. But obviously, you know, Nick, Anthony and Charlie all leaving at the same time as well. I mean, I was flabbergasted by that, especially by Charlie, because I know how much he's adored working within the BDO system for the last 3 years. I really do rate Anthony Dundas and Nick Rolls as referees. I think they're fabulous, and they're loved by the players. They've got a real kinship with the players, and that's important. But for them all to stand up and do the same thing, you've got to give them a lot of credit for being such friends and having that camaraderie. That's a special, special thing. So for them all to stand up, I applaud them, because if they're not being compensated for what they're doing, then they've done the right thing. As far as what Des has said, there's one thing in there that really perplexed me, and that was the need to mention the PDC in that statement. It's almost like he's trying to get one over on the PDC for something that he doesn't need to use. Why bring the PDC into one thing that is clearly about the BDO? Fix the problem and don't piggyback on what other people have potentially done in the past. You can do what you like, but just do it right. And there are lots of players out there who are constantly waiting by their Twitter accounts, their Facebook accounts, waiting for answers. Give them answers. That's all they want.
Do you worry for the BDO right now? Because I don't think I've ever seen it quite as bad as what it is in relation to, we've only just had the World Trophy announced hours almost before the deadline for TV and everything like that. Ticket sales obviously are going to be affected. There's still no date for Lakeside or wherever it's going to be. There's no Masters venue. There's no officiating party. It just seems to be a lack of clarity and leadership at the top.
So we're not getting clarity.
Clearly not.
I worry about the players. I'm still a player myself. You know, I could have gone to BDO tournaments this year. I've chosen not to because I've been too busy. But the likes of Jim Williams, Scott Mitchell, Wolfie. They're the guys I'm thinking about. And the girls. Don't forget about the girls, the kids. The Fallon Sherricks, the Mikuru Suzukis, the Trina Gullivers, the Ditas, the Lorraines. These girls have got nowhere else to go. They can play Challenge Tour, of course, but their World Championship is going to be in January, and they need answers. And they want to go to a World Darts Trophy. Fallon wants to defend a title. They want to go to a World Masters. They just want to know where they're playing in plenty of time so they can make arrangements. And I just feel for the players. I really do. I think Wayne, Mardle, in the last 10 days or so, and Barry have been very, very eloquent about, saying that we need the BDO. We do. We need that grassroots. We need people to have the opportunity to play darts for a couple of quid and play for, 2-3 grand. It's important because it gives them the opportunity to play against other players and find their own way. The PDC system is the elite. We all know that. You can play the Challenge Tour, but you've got to go to Q School. That costs money. So these BDO tournaments are very important for the feeder system of the game. And one thing I would say to Des Jacklin, why don't you ring Barry Hearn and ask for some help? Because he would help you. Don't see it as a dent in your armour or a dent in the system. Why don't you just all come together? Why don't you extend your hand on that phone and say, Barry, we want the BDO to live. We want to help darts. We want to keep it going. Can you help? And he would help. He wouldn't extinguish the BDO. He'd make them better.
Another very topical one at the moment is boards and points, especially with the World Matchplay. Where are we standing on it? Obviously, because I know you're a big golf fan as well, and there was this whole thing about anchored putting that it feels like we're going into similar territories where there's been talk of banning the aggressive points. Where are you on this? Do something need to be done? Is it a board issue? Do the players using the points for the reason because they have no confidence in the boards? Where are you as a player and a pundit on this?
This is a difficult subject because I'm sponsored by a company that makes a very good dartboard. I think there has to be some regulation on points. There used to be. You couldn't use a black point on TV because you couldn't see it. So we all had to use shiny ones. So we all got used to that pretty quickly. But then we were allowed to use the black points because they have better grip on them and that was not as sheeny. And I think there has to be some regulation on what happens at the end of the point. Because no matter what dartboard you use, you are going to shred it if you've got the most aggressive point in the world. And I'm not going to name names because everybody has decided to do that for us on social media in the last 10 days. But the boards have got to be a good quality, and we know that most of them are. What I'm saying is that the ones we see on TV are of a premium quality. It's some of the boards that we're not seeing on TV. It's the ones that we're seeing away from the cameras and sometimes in Europe that they do have imperfections and they need to be weeded out. So the quality control maybe has to go up probably at 10%. I do see regulation in points. If we can get the quality control on the boards to the exact state that we get on TV for every single board, then we don't have a problem. Certain players like maybe Rob Cross, Glenn Durrant, Simon Whitlock, who use a very aggressive point, they may have to make some changes, but it's all about the end of the point. If the boards are hard enough and they're only going in halfway, if the grip element that the player needs is at the top of the point as opposed to the bottom, then we don't have an issue. But it's the guys who use grip at the bottom that are shredding the boards. That's where we have an issue with the sort of knit one, pearl one thing that Chris Mason coined about 2 years ago, which I thought was rather amusing.
As well, Barry, obviously we spoke to him in Blackpool, hoping to announce some new territories for the World Series coming up for 2020. You looking forward to what potentially the PDC are going to announce? And
yeah, I love that interview because he probably tantalises your taste buds in darts and sport for that matter, probably more than Gordon Ramsay would at one of his restaurants. You just want to know, don't you? He will probably not tell us till about October time when the calendar comes out, but you just want to know, don't you? You want to see where darts is going. Australia has worked. New Zealand has worked. We'd love some sort of Far Eastern venue to work. I think the Asian Tour is working a treat, but the World Series obviously didn't have as much impact, which I like the diversification of that. But what I want to see are more youth players coming through in the Far East. It always seems to be the veteran guys, the Lims, the Seguasada, the Lawrence Silligan, the Noel Malik Dems. They're getting a bit on now. They may look quite young, but they've got a few years behind them. We want to see the next generation coming through. The one that intrigues me most is America, because we haven't had that next generation of dart players in the States for quite some time. So this is a real shout out to everybody in America. If you're under the age of 30, come on, prove yourself. Knock off the likes of Darren Young, Larry Butler, who's been around since day dot. And, all these guys, they're struggling to be taken off their perch. We need the young guys to really step up.
Well, the North American Darts Championship this year had record entries, but it was still the same old faces coming through that field.
It was the same when I went to Vegas back in 2008. Same faces. So that's 11 years of the same faces. We need to find that next generation. I know we're going up against the likes of ice hockey, baseball, basketball, American football. It's tough. This is a niche game, niche sport, but it can be played by anybody. And we could prospectively get the next best female player from that region. Why not? Because they play a lot in pubs and bars and darts venues in America. Maybe we just need to source them some other way and find maybe a different part of the United States that has this talent, and maybe it's not on the West Coast.
Barry also spoke about Scandinavia being next on his list. Would you like to see something big land in Scandinavia?
I think we need to utilise Scandinavia a bit more. I think the Danish European Tour this year was just brilliant. It was one of my favourites. A great tournament won by Dave Chisnell and Chris Dobie going all the way to the final. But it wasn't just that. It's just the quality of the games, quality of the venue in Copenhagen, in the Brøndby Halle, phenomenal. I think we need to push into northern Scandinavia. I think Denmark's a good place to start. Go over the bridge, get into Sweden. Finland's a tough market because it's a long way away, and there's a lot of people have to travel a long way to get to certain darts matches over there. I heard stories about Jarkko Komila from years gone by having to travel 1,000 miles to go to a dart match. But Norway's another one as well. Use Scandinavia. I think Iceland could be used. It's a potential feeding ground for the Nordic and Baltic League. And I just get the feeling that there are plenty of opportunities in Scandinavia, and I can't wait to go there.
Also looking ahead, the rest of the 2019 season is hotting up. The Slam, much talked about, the BDO picks, because obviously Glenn officially holds one of theirs. Will he get it? I don't think he will, personally. I don't know what your thoughts on that, but I think it will be bypassed to someone else. Do the BDO go bold with their picks? I know it was talked about last year, giving Lisa a spot. She's obviously not world champion now, so has Mikuru got a shot at a Slam place?
Great question. You put me on the spot here, and I don't mind that because I have my own school of thought on this. Glenn moving to the PDC and being so successful, I think the BDO giving him the spot as Lakeside champion will not happen.
No,
they just won't do it. They'll want to give it to one of their loyal guys. So we'd get the likes of Jim Williams and the guys at the top of the rankings, like Richard Veenstra and Wesley Harms. If the BDO want to promote their brand a little bit and the PDC go along with it, you get Mikuru Suzuki in there yesterday. Because I said in commentary when I was doing Makuru's final that she is a game changer. I would have put Lisa in last year. She was good enough to mix it with people in the groups. Mikuru Suzuki has had a sensational 2019. Get her in there. She's a commodity. She's from the right market. She is not going to be easy to beat. So for me, just get her in. And any other sort of commercial opportunity that the BDO have got, just use it. Because the way things have gone this year, they've been talking about bad press and long waits for announcements. This time, it's a pretty simple thing to do. Just get it done.
Could they be even more bolder then and go with Bo and Leighton as well, or is that too young on their shoulders?
That's a tougher question because Bo's been unstoppable the last 3 months, hasn't she? I mean, she's done so well. But she is very young, as is Leighton Bennett. There is such a thing as too much too soon, and I've been talking about that a lot, about Leighton Bennett. I've actually worried about the kid, but I've spoken to his manager, and he's set my mind at ease that he is He's doing things all the right way, which is great to hear. But I get the feeling that even kids at that age who are bossing it right now still need something to shoot for. They don't need everything on a plate right now. Let them still be hungry for something else, even when they're so successful. I'd say Makuru, yes. Bo and Leighton, not just now, but if they keep doing what they're doing, they may take the answer out of our hands.
I know, I agree, and that's why I asked the question, because they have been so successful, especially in the last 3 months. Bo down at Selsey, clearing up against the established ladies, and obviously Leighton is on the cusp of qualifying for Lakeside. That's why the question, I think, is asked.
I think if he makes Lakeside, that'll be a successful season for that young man. He's done phenomenally, and at his age, he's carrying the youth system really on his shoulders, not just in the BDO, but in the JDC as well. He's doing a lot for his age. Bo hasn't just dominated Selsey, she dominated Wales as well. I mean, it's almost unfair to put her in a girls' tournament at the minute. It's just great to see. It's what we want, and we didn't have these kind of opportunities when I was their age, and I'm just glad that these kids have got it, because when you have some, little lads and young lasses doing this kind of thing, it's motivational to the next generation who are, probably still in their nappies. It's phenomenal. I'm really, really happy that these opportunities are there.
Did you ever imagine these opportunities would be here in a sport that we all love? And where's the sky?
I personally didn't think I would see it. When I was playing in the late 90s, and I first met Stephen Bunting in 1999, he was only 16. He was the top guy. He was the top dog. And he was beating everybody at 16. And he still had to wait, the best part of 15 years for things to take off. If it wasn't for what the PDC have done and what Sky have done and what ITV have done, let's not forget about ITV. It's just amazing how they've put the PDC on its pedestal and how it's fed into people's living rooms. And the PDC with their online channel as well, showing the European tour, it's allowed other people to get involved from other nations. I didn't see this happening. I actually thought that darts would have died by now. I'm so glad I'm wrong, because the PDC have done an amazing job in the last 15 years of making this a sporting spectacle that everybody talks about. And it's going to be difficult for the PDC to keep things going on that upward trend. I think the next 5-year period is probably going to be their most testing, because they've got themselves up to this lovely standing and these great audiences. How do they make things different in the next 5 years to keep the avid punter coming back for more? That's what I'm interested in. Make it more razzmatazz and just change things up a little bit, I would say.
That was next to my follow-up. Do some of the TV tournaments need a freshen up and maybe just a change of format and something like that, because some of them are quite similar?
Yes, they do. We want people to be educated out there. The part-time darts fan needs to be told that there are different ways of playing this game. I personally think the way into America is to play a World Cricket Championship. And now we used to play it, but it was away from the cameras. Everybody in America who plays darts knows how to play cricket. So that's what you do over there, in my opinion, in Canada and North America. I think the Pro Tours before Dublin need to be double start. I think anything that leads up to the Grand Prix should be double start. I think having the word Grand Prix in Europe at the European Grand Prix or German Grand Prix, make that double start. Why not? We should have some sort of 2-day or weekend shootout where it's 1,001, one leg, everybody in the top 64. We've talked about this on the tour for a couple of years now. It would be so much fun. It's just like the snooker shootout. Things like that. Change things up, make it fresh. And I would change the walk on to the centre and not to the left. Just little things like that. Try and make it a bit more, get some, what they call pyrotechnics and stuff in there. But I am a wrestling fan after all, so that's probably why I'm saying that.
Moving on to yourself as well. A lot of talk on social media, people wanting to know what's going on. Obviously, we all knew you were going to take time out to recharge, refocus. Is the plan still to go back to Q School and do everything on your terms in January?
Yeah, definitely on my terms. I've enjoyed having a little bit of extra time to think and work on my own game at certain points. But to be honest with you, nothing's changed since we talked at Lakeside back in January. I do look a bit more recharged, that's for sure. I felt like I was at death's door in January. I'd worked that hard, and I was still haggard off a harrowing defeat at the World Championships to Kevin Burness. But I've put a lot of things right this year, and I've been doing enough practice to keep myself in touch. But after I go to Canada to see Jeff Smith for 8 days, that's when we start ramping things up and we do some proper practice and we get ourselves ready for January.
Paul, it's an absolute pleasure joining us here at Live Darts as always, mate. Thank you very much, and all the best, mate. Thank you
very much. Appreciate it.